Well, here I am on another bike ride. You might say, well, Rick, why are you out on the bike again? I mean, come on. You got some money for gas, don't you? I got some gas. Not a problem. But there's a couple things that are really important, and one of them is that I get up and move around now. Today was one of those rare days. I spent most of my time in a chair. People throw all kinds of stuff away. What was I doing? Well, one of my old customers, one of those customers that I used to do tech work for. I've done several different jobs for them when I was in the business of security cameras and DVRs. We had equipped their stores with the DVR systems and cameras. And also before that, worked on their computer network when I had my first business. And since then, I've done various handyman jobs, their offices. Well, today, it was hard drive recovery and database recovery. Evidently, like most people, they use a cloud-based service, but the cloud-based service they use went out of business. Evidently, they ran out of money. And now, all their data is inaccessible. I'm sure eventually, well, maybe not. It's just a matter of time before they have lawsuits and whatever other things are going to happen. So, with that being said, fortunately, when I set up their network, they actually had a local hard drive that was keeping data backups in an old server. Trouble is, one of the geniuses over there at the office decided to rearrange things and somewhat disconnected the server. And then to make matters worse, they had some kind of power failure and it became inaccessible when we tried to plug it in. So I took it home, took it apart. Hard drives were fine, but it was a RAID array. It was RAID striped. And with the server down, had to kind of rebuild it, get it working in another system. And I was able to recover all the data, no big deal. That wasn't the hard part. The hard part was organizing it in a way that they could upload it. Now, a lot of it was a CSV file, but there were also some other formats we had to deal with. Plus, they had some obsolete software that was running off-site, and it was a little bit of a mission, but I got it done. So by about 4 o'clock, everything was under control, and in the meantime, I was also sort of looking at some of the carnivore videos, some of the people out there, which was kind of nice. I kind of like these at the desk kind of jobs because it's fairly easy to be able to take a little time out and communicate with other people. It's pretty nice. But, you know, you do the best you can. Anyway. Not a bad day. It's about, 5 o'clock? I kind of have the wind behind me for now. Well, that'll change as soon as I change direction, so it may get a little windier. But when I started the day, I woke up around 6:30. But it wasn't a good night's sleep because here's what happened. Went to bed. I was in bed by 11. I watched the news until the weather report, which is somewhere around 11:20. They've had all this sports nonsense on the news because the local hockey team won the Stanley Cup, and they've been blah, 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 and showing all the people celebrating and whatever. And for the life of me, I never understood what the big deal was. Whether or not you win this big piece of metal, is your life really going to change? Well, I guess if you bet it on the game, it might have changed, but I don't know. To me, it just seems plain stupid. Now, all things considered, I don't know what the big deal is, of course. One thing that I just don't understand is why people get so excited about stuff that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything to me. Anyway, so I went to bed after that, and I fell asleep very quickly, as I normally do. But around, I think about 1:30, I woke up. Now, what happened? A lot of times when I fall asleep, I have these really strange dreams. Now, I have two different types of dreams, as I call them. The daytime dream and the nighttime dream. The daytime dream would be something like this. I'm out for a bike ride, or I'm working, doing whatever. It's light outside, no big deal. But then the evening or nighttime dream is usually where it may start off with some sunlight, but it just gets darker and darker, and then eventually you wake up. Well, that dream was pretty odd because I was at my house and my mother and some of her friends were there, and it was weird because I was asking my mom, I said, I haven't seen you in a long time. So, what's been going on? She says, well, you've been busy and I've been with my friends. And I was thinking about it, it's like, Mom, I didn't know you were still alive. It was just really a weird dream. I've had dreams like that before. But of course, about the time that I started to figure things out, then I woke up. I looked up, it was like 1:20, 1:30 in the morning, whatever. So I went back to sleep. Sometime between 3 and 4 in the morning, I usually wake up and take a leak. So that's what I did. And then, once I got to that point, it was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to sleep. Now, it felt a little warm, so I wanted to make sure the air conditioner was running. I walked over to the air conditioner, turned on the light. It showed that it was set for 68 degrees. And then I figured, oh well, I turned the light off. I went back to sleep. Now, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, it took me a little bit of time. It was a little uncomfortable. But I finally fell asleep. And when I did fall asleep, all of a sudden, it was like, okay, whatever. Now, I woke up sweating like crazy. Felt like I was in a sauna. Couldn't figure out what was going on. It was around 4:20 in the morning. So I get up. I figure, why is it so hot? And I start to kind of look around. I figure, well, maybe the air conditioning setting isn't right. So I get out of bed, walk over to the air conditioner, and it's not doing anything. Turn the light on, it shows that it's off. Okay, I'm thinking, man, did my air conditioner break? I know the power didn't go off because the light's still on. But it could have been that circuit that the air conditioner runs on. But nope. I pushed the button, turned the air conditioner back on, it went beep, and it started running. And wouldn't you know it, start cooling off. So it took a while, probably another 10-15 minutes before it was cool enough, and then I was able to fall asleep again. And I stayed asleep. I'm not sure exactly when it was. I think the last time I looked at the clock, it was like 40 minutes after or something. But, it was one of those days I just kind of lost track of time. Now, what happened next? Well, sometime after that, I had this really weird dream. And again, this is another weird dream. This would be one of the daytime dreams. I was at a place very similar to my house, except a lot bigger, in a lot better shape, with the same basic design. And then one of my neighbors, which wasn't that far away, had actually been, I guess they were having some kind of a get-together. And at that get-together, they were showing what looked like a carnivore YouTube channel. And then someone told me that they were having a meetup. I thought, boy, that's weird. A meetup in my neighborhood. I didn't see anybody I recognized, but I heard voices. Obviously, sounded like Dr. Chafee was there, and Carrie Mann would be there, and I think they said Dr. Baker. I forget exactly who it was, but it was kind of interesting because this was going to be one of those meetups, and I wasn't even aware that it was taking place. So that was pretty strange. Well, anyways, I was on a mission to try to find out who was there. But as I kept going around that place, inside, outside, it seemed like I couldn't find anyone. The next thing you know, I was pretty much walking down a street I didn't even recognize. Didn't know where I was. And eventually, around 6:30 in the morning, I woke up. Well, the sun was already starting to come out, so I decided, you know what? I'm not even going to try to go back to sleep. It's not worth the effort. And I just basically got up, turned on my computer, and started watching the Dr. Kiltz Morning Live. Now, it's really kind of interesting because a lot of times when I get up in the morning, this is when I start to think about a lot of different things. And I've been thinking a lot lately about a combination of the way the world works, the problems that we have, how things are going to get worse and not better. And I've been thinking about what we can do individually. Now, all of us have a limited power. None of us have the ability to make any real meaningful changes, no matter how much we try in the world. The world is basically, in my opinion, in a spiral of destruction. Now, many people, they think they can change the world, but over time what I've noticed is that for most people, it's just sort of a fight for survival. And really when it comes down to it, a lot of us, we're just trying to fight for whatever scraps we can get. As time goes on, especially in the world we're in, you can see that there is sort of a concentration of wealth. The wealth seems to go to the top. Now, for a while, the wealth was being distributed more evenly. And that's because of reduced entropy in the form of energy. For thousands of years, human beings have lived in a pretty bad condition. For example, most human beings have had to be servants, slaves, peasants, whatever you want to call it, working for the system, for kings, queens, lords, monarchs, whatever, and there's just been no hope of anything really changing. Now, with the introduction of mechanization and the introduction of inexpensive energy, starting with things like coal, going to oil, and even to some extent nuclear power, that really changed things, because instead of having a bunch of peasants out there with a shovel, pick and shovel, you can have equipment now. What I see over here, looks like they've got an excavator and got some trucks. I don't know what kind of development they're doing here. Maybe they're getting ready to put in pipes so they can turn this nursery, the last one in the neighborhood, into a development like all the others. I don't know what they're doing, but I guess time will tell. I was just here about a week ago. I guess school must be out. I don't see anybody hanging around here. So that's good. I really hope that in the next month or two, I'll finally get the missing pieces I need to finish my truck so I can get back to driving. Now, obviously, riding a bicycle is a slow way to get around. I'm trying to save fuel, and I'm trying to keep in practice, because what I see coming to the world economy is not good. I think what's going to happen, and this is just my opinion, there's going to be a financial breakdown. I think this is, that's a Seventh-day Adventist place. I guess that's a school or church or something, but we have a lot of Seventh-day Adventist places here. We have a headquarters, there's a couple of churches. This one over here, Seventh-day Adventist. Okay. There's a lot of churches here because this is what we call horse country. By my neighborhood, these are all 2.5 acre and bigger lots. This was the Miami I remember when I was growing up. But of course, starting in the 70s, they start filling it up with more and more people. And Miami is going to be ground zero when the economy and other things really start to fail. Now, a lot of times people talk about preparing for the future. And I think this is a great time for us to take this to heart. When you have a lot of people, you don't have available energy, that's when things get to be really bad. Why were ancient cities so bad when it came to famine and disease? Well, couldn't store a lot of food and couldn't produce a lot of it either. But thanks to modern technology, the ability to produce and store food has really increased. So, but the problem with Miami, pretty much all the farmland that we used to have has been replaced by development. And at the same time, development not only destroys farmland, but it also increases the need for farmland. So there's a certain balance. There are places that have very few people and a lot of farmland. And that's good in some ways, but it's bad in others, because in those areas, they may not have enough labor and resources to cultivate and harvest the food. Now, if those areas were, let's say, pastures and ranges, that would be fine. Because meat is one of those foods that's easily portable and easy to store. If you have adequate food for the animals, you can simply keep them alive. You don't have to kill all of them at once. If you have an animal that's ready to eat and you let it live a little bit longer, it's not the end of the world. Now, small animals such as birds and stuff like that may be more tender when they're younger, but some of us actually prefer older cattle. And I know Anthony Chafee is another person who has mentioned that he prefers older cattle. Now, I have to admit, when I see people like him, Dr. Chafee, we have a lot of things in common. Now, I don't look anything like him. I don't have that fantastic physique or any of that good stuff. But the attitude and experience is somewhat shared, which I think is pretty good. I think in many ways, it's just sort of I don't know how you'd put it, sort of an advantage when you've been carnivore as long as we have. But the problem is, in a survival situation, finding a good quality meat may not be easy. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't really think about. Now, you could stock up You could stock up several months worth of meat. I've done that before. You could keep it preserved. There's a lot of things that you can do. The problem is there's some things that you can't do. When you run out of meat, there is no more. It takes time for the animals to be born. If you were to eat up your whole flock, your herd, well, who's going to produce the new ones? Nobody. So this is something that we need to consider. Yeah, I guess all the schools are closed for the summer. That's Sunset High School. We used to make fun of it when I was a kid. We called it Scumset. I called it the prison, because this is one of those schools they started building in the 1970s and 80s with no windows. The only windows they have are on the doors, and some of the new additions have a couple of windows, but the main school had no windows at all. Some kind of idea to prevent vandalism or increase security or something like that. All right, let's see. We are good, I think. Yeah, we're good. So it is kind of important, if you're one of those like us that is eating a carnivore diet, and we find ways to have options. So what kind of options do we have? Well, we can't get our ruminant meats, our big game. We can hit the small game. The squirrels, the fish, the birds, and yes, maybe the rats. Whatever it takes to be able to get the food that we need to survive. If you live in a rural area, you'll have a lot more game to choose from. But if you live in a place like Miami, there's only so many iguanas, ducks, and whatever. Now, I know from experience, in my neighborhood, I have pretty much wiped out the iguana population. And I'm just one person, and I don't eat iguana every day. So, I think over here there's a hidden canal. There's something back here. Yeah, there's a hidden canal behind this fence. I'll tell you, there's a lake over there. The sidewalks are not very well maintained. Look at this. It's tricky. But at least they do have a railing here so the cars don't end up in the canal. So there's a lot that needs to be considered, and some of that comes down to, what happens if we can't get the food that we need. Now, food shortages can come from bad weather. And the most common problem will be a drought. And we're having a drought right now. Normally the rainy season would have already started. It's past the middle of June, and we're not getting any rain at all. We haven't had rain for, I don't think, at all in June. We had rain the end of May, a lot of it, but nothing in June. So we're behind for the year. Now, thankfully, we have a lot of groundwater. We're in a humid place, so it's only a matter of time before it rains again. But on the bad side, this abnormal weather usually means that hurricane season is going to be a lot worse. Now, we have no real open space anymore. The only open space we have would be these power line right-of-ways, as you can see. They mow them, although lately it doesn't seem like they're doing a good job of it. And they hit this bike path. All right. Let's see. Okay. Don't see any traffic here. That's good. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Probably another couple miles to go. This is about a 10-mile round trip. Well, not too bad. And really the traffic isn't that bad. Like I said, the only reason I'm riding a bike There's two reasons. One for exercise, and two, well, what is that? Oh, there's some people standing there. It's just somebody trying to cross the road. Sometimes the cops will hang out there and do a radar gun, but I don't think that's what it is. Anyway, looks like they're selling flowers. Well, so understanding what could go wrong. What could go wrong with the food system? Well, in general, long-term pain comes with short-term gain. So this whole area here used to be farms. And what's ended up happening over the years, the land was sold and developed into everything from these single-family homes, which aren't that bad, to apartments and shopping centers. Apartments and shopping centers are basically useless for anything except warehousing people. At least with these homes, there's a little bit of space where people can grow some fruit and vegetables. Here they got flowers. So, for those of us that are on the Whole Foods carnivore diet, we have a couple of choices. Now, obviously, moving to an area where animals are more abundant would be critical. Look at these cables just hanging here. Unbelievable. The infrastructure, look at that wire running on the ground. If I lived here, I'd take shears and cut this thing. This is ridiculous. Nobody cares. Our internet, our power, everything is just a rig. You know, they did put in some new poles for these power poles, but then again, I guess they got the money, they have to spend it on something. Now, understanding what could go wrong is a great way to help you to be able to avoid being a victim. If you're one of those people out there that thinks, well, nothing can go wrong, you're in big trouble. So what's my plan? Well, as you know, my long-term plan is to move out of here. Getting rid of this place, moving out of that mold-infested house, and living in the country, being able to go outside, do the things I want to do, meeting different people, living in a place where the language barrier is not as pronounced as it is here. Those are all great concepts. Time will tell how easy it is to find such a place. But, you know, you do the best you can, right? Really not bad on the traffic here. Traffic does seem to go down quite a bit when school is out. I think a lot of traffic in this town is just from people driving their kids around. And I have a very negative view of school. I've always hated school, even when I was a kid. I think that school in general is a waste of time. Kids don't really learn anything of real value. They don't learn anything about money, business, or anything really important. They learn a lot about facts and figures and stuff that could easily be replaced with a computer, which is kind of a shame. But, you know, I guess you got to keep these people busy somehow. I think the main thing that school is all about is just getting people used to being somewhere at a certain time and doing what you're told. Because that's really what they want. Anyway. All right. So, now, after having my set of dreams in the morning, getting up, watching YouTube and all that, I got my tools together, went out, cleaned up the van, got that phone call from my customer. So, went over there, to the office, tried to solve the problem, ended up bringing the system home, did the work from home, and now it's just a matter of when am I going to get paid? Working for these customers is always a little bit of frustration because they can delay when it comes time to pay. Although he did tell me he would bring me my money later today. Usually he'll come after 7. Now, I'll be home by 7. Oh, look at that old car. I'm sure I'll be watching something on YouTube. I'll probably be watching the Homestead How Live, where people say different things. They say hi to everybody except me, and then usually they'll have a giveaway. They give away 3 things. 1 is a shirt to advertise their group. Number 2, a monthly membership to their group, 1 month only. And number 3, a salt shaker. Well, if I want a salt shaker, I can go to the dollar store, and for $1.25 I can get a salt shaker. And salt isn't that expensive, but hey, whatever. Now, I think it's tomorrow, and I guess it's tomorrow, they have that documentary that's supposed to come out, the animal carnivore documentary. So I'm gonna look around, see if anybody puts a torrent on that. I'll find it somewhere. If I get a chance, I'll watch it, but you know, what can you do? I'm not gonna get too crazy about it. I like the idea that they have a lot of these documentaries, but in many ways, it's going to be interesting to see if it ever gets any kind of widespread appeal. I don't think it's going to be that popular, at least initially. Maybe when it goes to some of the other websites, maybe it'll hit YouTube, who knows. But I remember Dr. Chafee was in some Reversed series, and it never really caught on. So, oh, there's a couple of ducks out there at the condo. Interesting. Oh boy. Yeah, it's in the 90s. It's hot today. Look at this thing falling apart. Who wants a free button? Okay. All right. Anyway, quite a bit of pollution in this area. I guess it depends on the wind direction. Some days the air is very clean. Now, at least the county was nice enough to plant a bunch of oak trees in the middle of the road. Of course, once they expand this road, they'll rip them all out. For some reason. The bike path has ended, so now we have to play obstacle course on the sidewalk. And looks like there's somebody else with a bike or 2. So that'll be real interesting. Well, let me see. A lot of traffic here now. Seems like the further west you go, sometimes the more traffic you get. Doesn't make any sense. Oh well. Oh, they're going in that direction. No brakes in the traffic. There's a hidden cop car. Alright. I need to get to Fresco. I might just cross the road here. Oh, here we go. I got a break. Okay. Now we're talking. At least there's no curb here. That's nice. Well, anyway, my plan is fairly simple. I'm going to do the best I can and try to figure out ways to survive. Whoops. I need to make a stronger camera mount. That stupid thing always folds over. Okay. I made it to the shopping center without getting run over. Look at these people driving maniacs. Wow. They think this is a racetrack. Well, anyway, I hope that there's going to be something on sale here and I didn't waste my time. But I guess I really didn't waste my time anyway. I'll hit the dumpster. Actually, let me take a quick look in the dumpster. See if they threw out any good stuff. That's why I like this Fresco y Mas, because the dumpster is very convenient. Let's see. Looks like a bunch of vegetables. Vegetables. Don't see any meat in there. Oh well. It's empty. And that one's empty. Okay. I tried. Sometimes you get lucky and get some goodies from the old dumpster, but not today. Anyway, so here we are. We got the Navarro and the Fresco y Mas. Navarro is a Cuban drugstore, and Fresco y Mas is the grocery store. Okay. Let's see. There we go. There's where the payphones used to be. Anyway, hopefully I'll get a deal. I'll catch you later.